Check, 1, 2. That's the stream. That's not good either. Where it'll start. From when I start it to where you'd actually hear anything. That's bad. Now I told you you had to like have your mouth up against it. It turned out the main levels were too far down. It must have got reset or something because they were all like 85.
Test 1 2 1 2 test.
Check, check, 1 2 check, check. Straight image. Do you have audio?
I was on a plan. Yeah. Good. Is Don
He is, but he's in a meeting right now.
Can't wait.
here? No, that's okay. You sure?
Not yet. Hold on. Check, 1 2 check, check. Hello.
No, I don't want to. Can't hear him from here. I just talked to him on the phone a few minutes ago.
Heard who?
Sounds good.
Scott?
Let everybody stop by. Thank you. Take care.
Yeah. So the stream sounds. Okay. So the stream's going, right, Sue?
I hope they have. You can also hear them coming from these speakers.
Well, see, and everything up here works.
Okay.
It's just, oh,
You can tell it's just me working.
Yeah. We got,
Okay.
well, I don't know if you've been apprised yet.
Well, it's when I found
Boardroom audio.
what you knew.
You're up anytime you want to start.
All right.
Got 3 o'clock straight up. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Sarpy County Board of Equalization meeting. Today is January 26th, right?
Yes.
It's 3 o'clock. Copy of the Nebraska Opens Meeting rules are on the north wall of the boardroom. In attendance today, we have all 5 commissioners present, our county administrator, our county clerk and register of deeds, our county treasurer, and our county assessor. Just a quick announcement here. We do have an executive session that follows the regular agenda of this meeting. We're not going to ask all you folks to leave. The board will adjourn back to the conference room. I don't anticipate it to be a very lengthy session. So if you would just, stay in place, we'll be back as quickly as possible. For now, if you would, silence your cell phones, please. And rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have 2 items on the consent agenda. Motion, please.
Motion approved. Second.
Okay, motion by Warren, second by Commissioner Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
For protection of the public interest, I move that we go into executive session to discuss a legal matter.
Motion by Commissioner Klug to go into executive session. A second, please.
Second.
Second by Mixon. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, it's now 3:01. We're going to go into executive session where our discussion will be restricted to a legal matter. So we'll be right back. Same bat time, same bat channel, right? Are you coming into this? No? Okay.
You're good to go, Don, whenever you want.
Okay, it's 3:09, we went into, at 3:01, we went into executive session where our discussion was restricted to a legal matter. Need a motion to return to the regular session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Warren, second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, last item on the regular agenda is Resolution 006, tabled from January 4, 2022, confession of judgment in the matter of Danny Pittman versus the Sarpy County Board of Equalization, and Joseph M. Volpert and Marjorie M. Volpert, Tax Equalization and Review Commission, case number 18A0076.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Burmeister, second by Klug to approve. Any discussion on that?
Wait a minute, hold on, I'm not. Not a minute, hold on.
Please vote.
You don't have anything to vote on yet. Okay. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries. We're good, okay.
Okay, great. All agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Board of Equalization is adjourned.
Okay, give me 1 minute here. Okay, Don, I'm ready.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, everybody, to the Sarpy County Board of Commissioners meeting. It's 26 January, 3:10 p.m. Nebraska Open Meetings Act rules are on the north wall of the boardroom. In attendance, we have all 5 commissioners, along with our county administrator and our county clerk and register of deeds. Quickly, any commissioner announcements or?
I have none.
No, thank you.
Sir.
Okay. We got a bunch of items, 13 on the consent agenda. Are there any of those items any of the commissioners want to see moved to the regular agenda? If not, I'll take a motion to approve as published.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Warren, second by Klug. Any discussion on those? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, item 5.1 is a discussion presentation. Today, we're honored to have Congressman Don Bacon come talk to the board and give us an update on legislation that impacts Sarpy County. Congressman, welcome.
Thank you. I was told I had about 10 minutes, but tell me if I should vary that up.
7.5.
7.5, okay. First of all, it's great to be back home. It's great to be with you, my friends here, and someday Don and I will have to get you in a more social setting and tell you war stories that we went through down at Offutt Air Force Base. But hey, first I want to give you a quick update on what we've done with Offutt Air Force Base. Obviously very important to Sarpy County. As you all know, 2019, we had the floods where a third of the base was destroyed. We were able to get $800 million, that NDAA, to start the rebuild, and I think they said about a third of the way into the contract bidding. They were about $300 million short, maybe $400 million short, so we got $200 million this year. So we're, out of the 1.2 roughly that they need, we got about $1 billion appropriated. Right now, no, the $200 million is still sitting there in an appropriations bill that we haven't passed yet, but it's in the bill. We just got to vote on it, get it out of the House. Point is, I think we're on a good roadmap or a good glide path to rebuild Offutt Air Force Base. In the current NDAA, we also have money set aside for a nuclear command and control communications facility, which STRATCOM needs. We're upgrading our bombers, our submarines, our ICBMs, but our nuclear C3 is starting to fall behind. And so the 4-star there has made it a priority to bring in some experts from DC and make that center of excellence right here at Offutt. So they're looking to build that facility south of the base. And but you have to go to them for more details. Also embedded in the bill is a chance to build a new headquarters for the POW MIA agency that identifies those that are unknown soldiers that don't have identity doing the DNA testing. So we've tasked the military to come up with a plan to build a headquarters, and the plan is to put that out at Capehart Housing. So that's another development we're working on. So that gives you a quick update on some of the things we've been working on with the Offutt itself. Yes?
Can I ask a question? Will they keep the facility in Hawaii still, and this will just be a CONUS location?
Yeah, that's to my knowledge. They're going to maintain the facility in Hawaii, but we wanted right now they're in Building D on base.
Right.
They want to take that building down And so we needed to find a new place for them.
Okay.
There was talk about putting it at Stratcom, the old Stratcom building, now the current 55th Wing headquarters. But the decision has been now to build a whole new facility on 25th Street in the Capehart housing area.
Yeah, and just for the folks that don't know much about the military, how significant that mission is. I mean, these folks work to identify the remains of people that were lost in combat and non-combat situations. And recently, I think they had a huge announcement with one of the battleships
At USS Oklahoma, they found probably about 90% of the people they identified.
Yeah.
Very impressive. Talking hundreds of sailors that were unknown that were in that battleship. And I think it was just a small handful that they couldn't identify in the end.
Well, good. I hope you can marshal some funds for that. That'd be great.
One other thing, we're on a glide path too of getting the runway done here this summer and fall. That was a $160 million effort, local contract, but it's important. That was a World War II runway. And this will keep Offutt Air Force Base, I think, viable for a long time. And so I just want to give you a quick update there. I'm on the Armed Services Committee. More broadly, the biggest goal we have right now is getting our nuclear deterrence modernized. We have B-52 bombers that were made in 1962. Our ICBMs were made in 1969. Our most current bomber, the B-2, is 30 years old. That still technology is outdated already, frankly. And our Ohio-class submarines are 30 years old. So we have a huge bill to try to modernize this deterrent force. And we have a plan to do it, but it's going to probably take a lot of the other oxygen out to do other things with modernization. So I'm on the Agriculture Committee. We're going to start working on the Farm Bill, which is also important to Sarpy County. And so for the farmers here, we'll come up with renewing crop insurance, and all those things that we do in the ag, the ag bill will be important. One of the priorities for us is to expand trade. We are an export state. Corn, soybeans, beef, and pork are top exports for the state, and obviously in District 2, we're going to also get Saunders County rolled into District 2, and it's a big part, will be a big part of our district and mission there. So those are just some quick updates. I could take any questions on Ukraine. I've been working that very closely, or anything else that may be on your mind.
So I want to kind of laser beam in a little bit on infrastructure.
Okay.
As you know, we're trying to build a sewer system for the southern half of Sarpy County, and your staff and the other congressional members have been really supportive of trying to marshal funds down here. With this recent infrastructure bill that passed, do you see any of those funds actually flowing down to the county level?
If the state and the local officials designate the money for that, yes.
Okay.
But we, at the federal level, I did put an earmark in for the regular appropriations bill, but the infrastructure bill itself does not have earmarks in it.
Right.
But the appropriations bill, it is in there and it was accepted. So there's a hefty down payment to pay for the sewer lines that you're looking for. But it's got to pass the House and the Senate. That has not happened. Okay. But in the House bill, we have it in there. But the infrastructure bill itself, I think, was a good bill. I wouldn't say a great bill. Like anything else you have to pass with 4 to 35 members, there's some give and takes. But I'd like to clarify some of the spending. And there was a $1.2 trillion hard infrastructure bill, but $650 billion of that was the highway bill, right, which is the standard bill that we do. So 550 was the plus up that we put in towards infrastructure. And of that 550, 94% went to infrastructure. 20% went to roads and bridges, of which Nebraska has 1,300 bridges that need to be replaced. And so we have some big bills there that we have to get. We're going to get $2.5 billion for roads and bridges out of this $550 billion added to what we normally get with the highway bill. There's also money going to our airports. We had about $60 million go to Nebraska airports this year already out of this bill, and we'll get that every year for about 5 years. And so I know Elpley, for example, got $7 million this past month to help with upgrades and things like that. There's also money set aside for rail, seaports. I know we don't have locks necessarily associated with Nebraska, but it's a big deal for agriculture. Our locks are 90 years old, and if we want to export, efficiently and competitively, we got to upgrade our locks. And it's like when I talk to some of our businesses downtown, that's a top priority because they want to have a diverse transportation system to move grain out there. So point being, it's 94% of this bill, the 550 was infrastructure. The remaining 6% was federal site toxic cleanup stuff that had to be done as well. And But we spend about 2% of our GDP on infrastructure. Canada does 4%, Europe does 5%, China does 9%. And if you want to compete with exports, or your commerce, public safety, investing in our infrastructure is important. So, but this year, we're going to be, or this, out of this bill, you're going to get $2.5 billion for roads and bridges. And there is money set aside, $200 million for the water infrastructure, where there may be some opportunities for Sarpy to compete.
Okay.
Also, Congressman, obviously, for infrastructure and, oh gosh, I don't even know how many years now, but we finally got the bridge, the Highway 34 bridge in. Now we need that infrastructure from the east to the west on Platteview Road. And this is in what we're trying to do as well. We're hoping to, possibly get some federal money also earmarked for that if possible. That would be great because, and I think as I shared with you in a phone conversation, that Southern Beltway or whatever we'd want to call it, it's important to the county, but I think it's also important to the whole region, the whole metro area, because a lot of truck traffic could probably come off
Versus 80.
interstate, yes, down the
Totally
middle
get you.
of Omaha. So I really think that needs to be looked at and incorporated in what we're trying to do, and not just a Sarpy County project. It's really a
It's a
metro.
statewide impact.
Yeah.
So there's two ways this money could get there. Out of the $2.5 billion, but based off formula, that's what we're going to get directly. But it's going to go to the state, and then we have to figure out internally, we're going to have to compete within the state for how that money will be parceled out. But there's also grant money that's separate than the $2.5 billion that we can put in grant money for and try to pay for projects like that way too. So there's two opportunities to go after the Platteview Road
Okay,
using this one bill.
okay, thank you.
I just want to say, we really appreciate all that you do for Sarpy County. And we're glad that you and Angie decided to plant some roots down here in Sarpy County.
We had roots, and I was pretty content, but my wife wanted even deeper roots. So we're building off of Platteview Road. So I was debt free. I'll say it that way.
So thank you for all you do for Nebraskans and for Sarpians.
That's my home. I'm proud of it. Been 16 years total living here, so it's as much as my home as moved 16 times in the Air Force. This is the home I've had.
Yeah, well, you're doing yeoman's work for us, and we really appreciate it. So thanks for taking time out.
Thank you.
I know you're busy, but
I want to compliment the board. This is where the rubber hits the road. You have real impact on people's lives at the county level, so we appreciate you too. Thank you.
all right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, on to the regular agenda. The first item is a resolution 004, change order number 2, which was tabled from January 4th. And it's deals with a payment to Tab Construction for some work done on 168th Street. Scott Bovick.
Thank you, Commissioners. This was a project where we paved 3 lanes of road of 168th Street from Highway 370 to Schramm Road. It's about a $3 million project, and it was completed this calendar year. At the end of the project, we discovered that the contractor actually had to do more work than was actually called, that was actually quoted in the contract, and so that led to this $45,000 change order. Because the contractor did do the work and we verified that the work was done, we do recommend approval so that the contractor can get paid. I have talked with County Engineer Danny Wilson, and Benish has a representative here too. If you pass this today, we're going to meet together and talk about what happened and what we can do better on other projects. But that I recommend approval. Answer any questions.
Questions for Scott? Motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Warren, second by Burmeister. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, 6.2 is Resolution 14, accept the June 30th, 2021 financial audit report performed by Hayes and Associates. Bill Conley, Chief Financial Officer. Welcome, Bill.
Good afternoon. Today, you can see one of the takeaways, our cash was $139 million, up 24 million from the prior year. About 18 million of that was from ARPA. And then the other was related to the change in our income for the year. Also, we were, and I'll talk about it a little bit later, we had a deposit a year ago of 50 million on a case in district court that was released during the year. So you'll see that play out a couple times in the financials. This shows our cash and investments for 2021, 139 million. Again, highlights the changes, 42 million of cash at the end of 2021 came in from the bonds that we issued in June for the net for the highway allocation bonds. 18 million in ARPA, less the 50 million that I mentioned that went out for the district court case. Our capital assets increased 28 million. We had about $36 million in projects, road projects, the new correctional center, other large projects, net of depreciation. That's how you get the 28 million. So again, total assets of 406 million. That's up 52 million from last year. Our payables are down $45 million. Again, the story is pretty consistent. 50 million of that is from the district court case that we had a deposit last year. We don't have that 50 million deposit. We released it during the year. And so that liability is way down this year. Our bonds and notes payable are up 53.9 million. Again, I mentioned the highway allocation bonds that we issued in June. The total bonds there were a little over $50 million. So that accounts for that increase. This shows another way of looking at our bonds and notes payable over the last 5 years. Again, 2021 is increased because of a $52.6 million highway allocation bond that we issued in June of 2021. Deferred revenue and inflows. This number, 29 million at the end of June 2021, is up 19 million. And if I ask you why that might be, it's because of ARPA. So we got 18 million in ARPA that's sitting there about to be used, and that's half of our total, but that came in, and so we showed it not as income during the year, but as a deferred revenue. So our net position, this is kind of the net equity for the county, went up $24 million during the year to $252 million. This chart shows our net position over the last 5 years. It continues to increase. The compounded annual growth rate over that 5-year period is a little over 7% a year of growth. So that's showing that the county, I think, is in pretty solid financial shape. I put this in here as a ratio to just keep an eye on. It's our net position as a percent of total assets. So this might be another way of looking at this is how much equity do you have in your house? So how much equity do we have in the county? And we're still at a very high 62%. So it shows we're not, too terribly high leveraged at this point as a county. We're using a little bit more for roads and for the correctional center than we had in the past, but we're still have a very high net equity.
Do we hit a point on that to where it starts to impact our credit rating?
We will, yeah. And I don't know the answer to that exactly, of what that number would be, but when we did the highway allocation bonds in June, we anticipated and told the bond rating agencies that we were going to be issuing that bond, a correctional center bond, which we did in August, and another road bond probably in the next year or year and a half. So I think it's already factored in that we will be doing at least that amount of debt. So that answers your question. So the other financial statement of the two that are important is the statement of activities. This is the income statement. Again, a lot of numbers. I'm only going to hit a few lines, try to tell the story. Our total revenues for the year were 128 million, up about 5 million from last year. really pretty nominal increase, just year over year, up about 3 or 4%. On the expense side, kind of the same story, 101.8 million of expenses, up from 98 million, up about 4% over the prior year. So pretty nominal increase. I think that shows that the county is monitoring and controlling expenses in a conservative way. So our net, the revenues over expenses is 27 million for the year. We had a loss on capital assets that were disposed, and that's mostly due to annexations. And then our net bottom line was about a $24 million, quote, profit or a change in our net position. So that's a summary of the two main financial statements, the big picture, at least some of the takeaways for you. There's thousands of numbers in the financial report, which I'm not going to go through, but the other financial statements, pages 18 to 23, show the fund financial statements. Some of those are accrual-based, some of them are modified accrual. It seems to be a little bit confusing, but it shows funds based on whether they're governmental, proprietary, or fiduciary. The notes to the financial statements show a lot of information about each of the line items, or many of the line items in the financials. There are required and other supplemental schedules in the back. And then the last section of the 67 pages is the independent auditor's report on internal control, compliance, and findings. And just a few things to point out about that. Again, the report, as noted earlier, was an unmodified report. There were no material weaknesses identified. That's good. We don't want that. The auditors did provide a significant deficiency related to really a follow-up from the state auditor work on the Treasurer Department. So it's Treasurer's Office, so nothing new. It's well, that happened. We want to highlight it in the audit, and I'll let our folks from Hayes talk about that. There are no material weaknesses in internal control over major programs or any significant deficiencies in our major programs as well. So I think a real solid audit result. And again, I'm pleased with the relationship we have and the working partnership with Hayes and Associates, a team that has done really well. This is the second year of audit that they've done for us. And I think Austin is here. I don't know if Brian is here. But Austin, I'd like you to come on up. You can comment on anything you've heard. You can disagree with anything you heard, by the way. But I want you to have some time with the board, and they can ask you any questions that they might have about the audit. Come on.
Thank you, Commissioners. Bill covered everything pretty well there on the financial side. Not a whole lot that I need to cover, but as he mentioned more than once, unmodified opinion, which is the ultimate goal for any organization, including Sarpy County. We are very pleased with our relationship with Sarpy County. Bill, Jenny Rock, everybody at the fiscal department has been excellent to work with. We've really enjoyed that. He did point out the one finding that we did have, which, as it's nothing new to the folks in this room. It was highlighted by the state auditor, brought up here as well. Actions were taken in relation to the issues related to the prior treasurer. The majority of the issues were resolved prior to the end of the year, which really dropped the effectiveness on the financial statements at the end of the year. So I know additional actions subsequent to the end of the year were still required to be taken, but we look forward to this next fiscal year. Barring any other issues, it looks like there should be nothing else related to that matter. The health of the county appears to be very well, as Bill mentioned. Things are moving upward, trending upward, not getting to the very specifics, but all the bonds coming forward. There's going to be a lot of activity going on in the county, and it's going to be a lot to go through. as we continue to do that. We turned this audit around pretty quickly. Thanks again to the individuals at Bergen KDV as well assisting the county in that preparation process for us. Did anybody have any questions for us in relation to the audit?
So the one deficiency that was there is from prior time frame?
So we have technically two listed in the report. One is the very last page before. The current corrective action plan is related to our audit of 2020 year end. We had one significant deficiency related to 2021's year end. What I was speaking about is I believe all of the matters have been resolved up until this point or even prior to now.
So all of the action you requested as corrective actions been implemented by the Treasurer's Office? And
to our understanding, yes. Even some prior to the end of this last fiscal year.
great, thanks.
Questions? Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you all.
Comments, anyone? Bill?
I don't know if there are any other questions. I would just point out one thing that we're proud of as a team. Again, and I wanted to mention Tim Lenz at Bergen KDV, who helps us. He's on kind of our side in terms of the audit prep, and Tim does a great job. But we did get the audit issued by the end of December, which we haven't done as a county for, I don't know, about a decade or so. So we're trying to get it done a little bit quicker. And so that's an accomplishment that I think our team feels good about. And that's due also to the work of Hayes. We worked with them on getting that done, and they were very cooperative. So I'd open it up if you have any questions.
I just have a comment, and I think it's very important because it's obviously going to save the county and the taxpayers a lot of money. And timing is everything. We bonded a lot of money last year, and we bonded it at very, very, very attractive interest rates. And now what you see in the economy, and you see inflation, you see the cost of obviously all the materials, not only on the interest side of it, but also in the contracts that were signed on the projects to keep a guaranteed maximum. Those are all very, very prudent decisions as you look at what's going on in the economy now. So kudos to everybody involved in that.
Yeah, I'll add on to that, the kudos to the board for your efforts on that. This county financed $93 million in the last 9 months at an interest rate of about 1.7%. So locked in for 20 plus years. So that's great.
Thank you, Bill, and your team for the continued work.
Appreciate your hard work.
Yeah.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Warren and a second by Commissioner Mixon. And just a final accolade for your staff, Bill. Thanks for all your work on this. And to the Hayes folks, thank you for the thorough review. Any other discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5.
Bullet point, however, uncertainties still remain that could negatively impact the agency's cash flow position, albeit with some ability to mitigate prior to operations commencing. Just got recent information. This service agreement that you're voting on between this board and the agency is for $69.8 million. And not to do one up, but we actually got 0% and 0 fees. So great market out there, but we believe it's going to take more. We're going to mitigate that, and I've individually discussed this with all of you, come back with a combination and some options, but we'll know probably within 90 days, but I don't want to stand here before you and the public and say 69 million is going to build that red line. The market is too volatile right now, and I just don't think it's going to. I have consistently pledged this. We will never submit one that says raise your property taxes to do it. This is a utility that should be funding itself and will fund itself. Again, some assumptions. We have a contingency, but we'll see where that lands. So Phil Green actually pointed this out. I think the number was a little higher maybe than Phil gave me, but 21,000 per acre is our current connection fees. There's really 44,000 projected to open up of the 88, about half of it. We'll pay this loan off when 3,000 acres are platted. And there's 44,000 sitting out there for the future of Sarpy County. So it really is the start. And, you know, unless something just draconian happens to the economy and development stops or something, I think it's a pretty solid project to back. The agency is obligated to do their rates and their fees for the operations. And the plans to pass through any Omaha wholesale rate charges and any unforeseen construction cost consequences in there. And that's what we'll continue to fine tune. 69.8 we did because we're cash poor before we actually get customers to hook onto that red line, and it's really about a 10-year projection before it starts to really cash flow for us. And so NDE was there's why I forgot to thank NDE. They really, even though it's been complicated, anybody that will give you a $69.8 million loan at 0-0, you probably shouldn't forget to recognize. So if Director Macy or others are there, we recognize that, thank you. But the fees, the whole purpose, and this is really the service agreement. I'm going to bust through this fairly quickly and stop here. This is really the heart of what we've talked about, that the county, according to the agreement, this is an excerpt from the agreement you're considering, hereby agrees to make payments to the agency in such amounts that are necessary to make up any deficiency in this loan payment. There's the substance of what we're doing. That's the backstop agreement. That's what it is. And any levy by the county for any year in excess of 48 cents per $100 for the purpose of the county's constitutional levy limitation shall be levied by the county exclusively for the purposes of this service agreement. I call this the apocalypse scenario. That it just went south and it could potentially have a tax levy on it, where I said we would never present a few minutes ago. Again, full disclosure, there is a potential if this project fails, there could be a levy issued to pay for this project. That's the county backstop. But again, this is nothing new. This was 2017, and we really don't think it is. And that certainly Bill will and or Mike will be able maybe to address that really quickly. Just some other stuff in there. The agency, this is kind of a catch for us, the agency's obligations. They're not going to borrow any money without the written consent of the county. So, you know, we've agreed to that, or they have agreed to that. I struggle with my personal pronouns when I'm talking about this project, but we really have a relationship with them where we can do the oversight and monitor and make sure if there's going to be a problem, we're going to know way ahead and have an opportunity to fix it. They'll give us everything we want, won't use cash where we say the agreement won't. And the agency being responsible for compliance with the terms and provisions, all of those things like audits the agency's doing themselves, and all of the various acts they have to comply with construction, that's not any county obligation. The agency will be handling that. So I'm going to pause there and ask Bill or Mike if they would like to come up, or would they come up and address the issue of the bond and their roles.
Good afternoon again. I'll be brief because I know you're tired of hearing me, and I am tired of hearing myself. So, a couple things. I don't want to bury the lead, and maybe you're all aware, but we're talking about a $70 million loan for the agency. It's a 0%, zero fee loan. Principal payments, because there is no interest, principal payments for the first 10 years is $1 million a year, and then after the first 10 years, you get to year 11. Through year 30 is $3 million a year. So that's of note. Why that's important is when Dan talked about the county backstopping, the 10-year commitment for the county is a total of $10 million. So this slide shows a lot of numbers, but as part of the agreement, the service agreement, the county has agreed to set aside $2.5 million of sewer funds that we already have on hand, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we got to segregate, put them in a new fund, $2.5 million. At the most, we could get
drawn into that is $1 million a year, right? Because $1 million principal payments each year. And we have to, as a part of that service agreement, replenish that. I'm telling you today, I think it's going to be highly remote that we would ever levy to replenish that when we're talking about $1 million. We can just replenish it with other county funds. But so for the first 10 years, our total county commitment is $10 million. After that point, it's the reserve needs to be increased to $5 million, and the annual debt service is $3 million. I think is all doable. This project is in a much better place than we were 6 months ago in terms of what it does to the county. That's largely due in part, well, not due in part, it's largely due to the dream team that we've got for our bonds at this county with Mike Rogers at Gilmore Bell, Susan Gerlach at PFM. They really have provided some incredible service over the last few months, helping to work with NDE on something that works for us, for the agency, and for NDE. And so I'll let Mike talk about any more specifics, or he again can correct anything that I may have done wrong. I guess my only other slide here is when they're asking for $2.5 million. This slide just shows we have $13.6 million of sewer funds at the end of December. So we have adequate funds that we can set aside and still maintain the sewers. And these are not sewer agency sewers. These are Sarpy County sewers that we operate. We'll have adequate funds to operate those. So, Mike, I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. Mike Rogers with Gilmore and Bell, bond counsel for the county. I don't know if I can escape out of that. Here we go. So I just wanted to mention, I think the thing that's changed since the last time we were here is the reservation of the last 2 cents of the county's constitutional tax levy authority. And I wanted to sort of explain that a little bit. And we worked hard to structure that so that it's effectively not a big deal, or shouldn't be viewed as a huge concession by the county. It's a remote possibility, first of all, that you would ever get there from a levy standpoint. But then secondly, it's consistent with the county's obligation under the service agreement to make payments in case the agency falls short. So first, on the remote nature of it, as has been the case all along, the county is using its tax levy authority under the Industrial Sewers Act, the 3.5 cent levy authority, to backstop the agency. Since it's a startup there, and as was mentioned, there aren't revenues to cash flow yet. That's the reason the county is here, and that was the reason we went through the special legislation in 2017. But the 2 cent levy commitment is with respect to the last 2 cents of the county's constitutional levy limit. For purposes of that levy right now, the county's only at 28.29 cents. So the county's own levy would have to raise 20 cents. And the constitutional levy limit excludes levies for fire districts and other political subdivisions. So that makes it incredibly remote that you would ever get to that level for the county's own use of 48 cents. There would have to be a lot of changes in how the county, what the county needs, but also state property tax law. But even if you do get to that level, the agreement is structured so that the last 2 cents of that 50 cent limit do get applied and transferred to the agency, but if the loan payment fund is full, the money comes right back to the county. So again, as was mentioned, the county, under this agreement, the big picture is the county's agreeing to make up any shortfall if the agency isn't able to make their payments. And so that last 2 cents of levy would go to satisfy that obligation, and once that's satisfied, the money comes back to the county. So we worked hard to try to make it so that it's workable for the county, it's consistent and doesn't offend any of the county's existing bond covenants, and is something that gave a lot of comfort to NDEE and allowed the agency to proceed with the 0% and zero fee loan. So happy to answer any questions on that.
So the levying the 2 cents, the county can use any other funds prior to that time.
Correct.
It's only if it's not replenished that happens, right?
That's correct.
And in terms of risk, You think the risk of being in that position is a low risk? How would you evaluate that risk, Mike?
Well, there are a couple of different things. One is whether or not the county would ever have to levy for this. That's a question of how the sewer agency develops and development in Sarpy County in general. That's hard to identify what that risk level is. But then, yeah, it's for future county boards, replenishing any amounts that are used to cover the agency's obligation. If those aren't replenished in a year, then the county would have to start levying a tax. So it'll really be in the county board's hands from year to year to make sure that reserve fund is full, and if it's drawn on, gets replenished.
The board has control of that, right?
Correct. That's correct.
Questions? Dan?
Thank you, Nicole. I'm not sure if you feel you need to address the board at all, but you certainly can.
No, I think everything's been said, so.
I could go a little bit while longer, but you've spent over an hour and 4 minutes on money and sewers. So I guess I just open it up for any questions and ask for a supportive vote.
Well, I just want to make a couple comments and throw out a couple other names that you might have missed. Chris Meyer, Jeff Thompson, Steve Jensen, Steve Pangle are 4 folks that have been very, 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 very helpful.
Now you see why I don't thank people. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I just remember when you were the city administrator at Papillion, and we were truffling off down to Lincoln to try to pull the legislature in the right direction to make this all happen, and I had the support of the mayors. And the only negative comment I've ever heard from anybody is, well, why is the county bearing the burden for why is the county the backstop? And I understand that argument, but the county's comprised of 5 cities, and those mayors sit on that agency board, and if the county backstop comes into play, it impacts every one of the citizens that live in each one of those cities. So I kind of viewed it as a collective risk since day one, and that's the whole reason that we formed the agency, because the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Because if Sarpy County could have done this on our own unilaterally, we would have already done it. So I look at this project as something different. We do a lot of evolutionary things here in the county, and they're important. But we approve 1 and 6-year road programs, and the next year we update it, and things happen and development occurs. But this is a once in a generation kind of a project. This is something that most people never get the opportunity to be a part of, to plan for, and really put your fingerprints down in the sand. Because 50 years from now, when the county board's sitting up here, this county's going to look a whole lot different. And in my opinion, it's going to look a whole lot better. Because we're going to offer amenities and quality of life and great services to our children and our children's children that wouldn't have been possible without the work. And you thank the wrong group, because leaders always get the thanks, but the leaders are only as good as the team that supports them. So let's be honest. Where the rubber met the road was certainly at the administrator level, and that starts with you, Dan. And it starts with the financial support that you got from Bill Conley, and that the agency got from Phil Green, and all those consultants. And yeah, sure, we're paying them for their support, but they're in it for the right reason, because they want to see us succeed. So, I'll just throw the gratitude back where it really belongs. It doesn't belong on the mayors or the board, the agency chairman. It belongs on the people that really got out the pencils and did all the work and went to the meetings and endured the countless hours of negotiation. that old saying, be careful what you ask for, you just might get it, you know. We thought, well, what a great idea, let's get the mayors and the county together. Well, we'll all agree. Nah, we rarely agree on anything. But, you know, I mean, they're great. They're great leaders, they are. I mean, I am on that board, served by Mayor Doug Kendig of La Vista as the vice chairman, and he's always grabbing my coattail as I stand on the precipice to pull me back in and marshal consensus. So he's fabulous at that. So I mean, you know, but truly the thanks goes to you, Dan. I mean, you are the guy. If there was one person that I could pin the rose on for this thing coming to fruition, it would be you. So thank you very much for that. It takes a lot of vision, it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of work, and you did it. You pulled it off. So now it's going to be up to this board and the mayors to make sure that we execute that plan and bring it to fruition. So thank you for all you've done on that. Does anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, my comment is, and I've in always discussing this, and everybody asks the risks and what are we doing and how much risk are we taking, and we're backstopping and we're doing this and we're doing this. And as Commissioner Kelly said, it's once in a generation. It might even be more than that of a project of this magnitude, and for everybody to come together. And I always just challenged you when there would be the naysayers. I said, the challenge is, what if we don't do it? So everybody's always, here's the cost, here's what we're going to do, here's this. Well, what's the cost if we don't do it? And you guys accepted that challenge, and I thank you so much, because I look at this as just being, this is just the start, and many years from now it will be a lot different. The only regret I have is Sarpy County will lose a lot of premium farm ground. So, but
I think great projects and progress require vision and some element of risk. And I think the best decisions are made, quite honestly, when people disagree around the table.
This is a great decision.
And come together to find something that works for everyone. So I really appreciate everybody's hard work here. I'm in support of it. I think you've done great things to bring us something that's easy to support.
I would simply reflect Don and Angie's comments. Appreciate the heavy lift that you've done on this, Dan. I remember when I was first running for this seat, we met at Leadership Sarpy, and first thing you did is you broke out your notebook and said, here's the ridgeline, here's what we need to do. And your leadership has been huge in making this happen, so thank you for that.
One comment. Motion to approve.
second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Warren and a second by Commissioner Mixon. Any further discussion on this?
I would just add, Mr. Chairman, members, you're giving me way too much credit. I'm a door kicker that doesn't take no for an answer very easily. The brains are all behind it. And I really didn't plan this, but I just changed my email tag today. I got a new computer, and it says something. It goes like this. It goes, leadership is about being brutally realistic and eternally optimistic. And that, I think, is indicative of this project.
Well, I mean, I appreciate your humility, but the reality is without you and Bill Conley and Phil Green, I don't think we'd be standing here today. So I really appreciate it. Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
And just for the record, the agency is scheduled to vote on this agreement. You're the first approver of it today. They hopefully will ratify that tomorrow, along with the formal SRF agreement, of which you're not a signatory. You're backing it by the member service. So that's it, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. All right. 6.5. Resolution 29 is appointing Jesse Arrett to the position of the Director of Sarpy County Emergency Management. Dan.
Thank you, sir. I know Jesse's here. I don't know if he has any other family, friends, if they wouldn't mind coming up here for this.
Just by himself.
So as Jesse's making his way up here, and in the interest of time, I get the pleasure of recommending the approval of appointment of Jesse to the position of Emergency Management Director for Sarpy County. We all know that it was a tragedy that led him into there, but he stepped up during a tragedy, and it was not just that, but the preceding things that Jesse's done to prepare himself. He has, and I want to read them really quickly because they're pretty significant. More recently, he coordinated the historic flooding in 2019 for Sarpy County. He was a point person for that. Currently serves as the chairperson of the Sarpy County Local Emergency Planning Committee, the chairperson of the Emergency Management Committee for Tri-County Homeland Security Working Group, serves on the executive committee for the Omaha Metropolitan Healthcare Coalition. Before he was doing all those things, Jesse had spent 8 years as with the New Mexico Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management, where he was involved with the State Continuity of Operations Program Manager and several revisions, and he does have a degree in emergency management, FEMA certified in a number of areas, including incident command and response. So he's certainly qualified, but above all of that, he's a really good person. You know, he's just a really good human being and the kind of culture that we want in Sarpy. So I respectfully ask for your support in Jesse's appointment, and then ask him to say a few words if he's approved.
Okay. Stand by, Jesse, for 1 second here. Can I get a motion on Resolution 29?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Burmeister and a second by Mixon. Discussion? Please vote.
Commissioner Kelly.
Yeah, I don't have it up
All
here.
right, I'm gonna put it
I'm
in.
an A.
Can I put it in for you?
Yes, please.
Okay. Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Thank you. Jesse?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you very much. As Dan said, you know, I wish it was under different circumstances, the vacancy for the position, but I am grateful for the opportunity and look forward to working with everyone to get us ready for the next big one. So thank you again.
You bet, Jesse. We know you have big shoes to fill, but we know you're the man for the job, and we're really thrilled to have you on board. So look forward to working with you.
Thank you very much, Chairman.
You bet. Okay, resolution, our 6.6 is resolution 19, which ratifies the 2021 Nebraska Emergency Management Grant Program in the amount of $91,000 for the time period of July 1, 2021 to June 30, 2022. Jesse Harrett, Emergency Management Director.
I'm happy to answer any questions. This is just to ratify the acceptance of the award.
Questions for Jesse?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Warren, second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thank you.
Okay, 6.7 is Resolution 16, the Fourth Amendment to Work Order 12 to the Master Agreement for Professional Services, which was previously approved by Resolution 2019-029, of the engineering agreement with Olson Engineering for 2022-2023 construction phase services to provide construction for structural work, public outreach, and construction management for Connect Sarpy West Giles Road project in the amount of $4,733,500. Scott Bovick.
Thank you, Commissioners. This agenda item is for an agreement with Olson, who's been our project manager and design and construction engineer on the project. This will be the final agreement with them. The next agenda item is for the final guarantee maximum price, GMP, with Hawkins Construction. It's the fourth and final GMP in the amount of $17,500,000. You've approved 3 previous GMPs there. This will be the final one. We do have Tony Eaglehoff with Olson here today and Tom Hawkins or Tom Crockett with Hawkins, and would like them to walk through a quick PowerPoint for you. I know it's been a long.
Let me go ahead and read 6.8 into the record, and then we'll vote on them separately. But as you already referred to it, it's Resolution 30, which is the construction phase documents for Package 4 to the construction management general contractor at risk for the Giles Road projects out west, 192nd Street, Cornhusker Road, and 192nd Street overpass for a guaranteed maximum price in the amount of $17,500,000.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I'll have these guys come up, but before I do, just like the sewer agency project and the audit, it's always a team effort on these big projects, and so the county engineer's office, Denny Wilson and his team have been a huge help, and Nicole Spitzenberger and Kayla from the Cathco from the county attorney's office have been very involved in all the right-of-way things that we've had to deal with, and then of course Bill Conley and his team are the ones that financially helped us make this happen. So with that, I'll turn it over to these guys and they can tell you everything you want to know about the project.
Great.
Yes, thank you for having us here today. I want to echo the thanks that Scott mentioned regarding the team that's been involved in this. It's really been a group effort, and I really want to thank the opportunity not only to present to you, but kind of shepherd this program for you. And we'll go ahead and get this.
Try this again, sorry.
There we go. So first I'm going to talk about the design amendment, and then we'll get into the GMP. So the design amendment, again, as Scott mentioned, is the final one that we're presenting to you. It's primarily made up of three components. There's a design component, construction engineering, and the program management. The design scope really kind of focused in on some work that has already been completed over the last year. There's a little bit of work left to be done, but parts of that include the bank stabilization at the 180th overpass. Really, this is allowing us to set up for future improvements to that channel area once additional funding partners come along. It also allows us to protect the banks for the future expansion of that particular bridge. There's grading package savings in here. Basically, the borrow site that Hawkins identified, we've worked with them to develop that grading package. There's also some adjacent engineering efforts that we've gone through over here the last couple months and really reducing costs to the overall program, finding ways to approach the improvements a different way to save money. And then construction design services. So these are efforts that Hawkins would have had to hired out an engineering service, an engineer to do this work, but because we already have a lot of the background information, we've incorporated that into this design amendment, providing savings to the county as well. The construction engineering, this covers the next 2 years of efforts, so 2022 and 2023. This would include construction staking, material testing, permit compliance, as well as observation, and then the administrative efforts, pay applications, change orders, that type of stuff. This is a time and materials not to exceed component of the contract, so as the program continues along, if there's efficiencies, it gets done quicker, we won't be billing all of that effort for you. The program management component, this is a small increase in the previous efforts that we've identified. We were trending a little higher here over this last year, but this is basically our day-to-day efforts that we're assisting the county with. Basically, anytime somebody gives us a call and says we need information, what are we doing here? You know, we're providing that information to the county, as well as then coordinating with City of Gretna, the public schools as well. Coordination with the railroad as we've worked through the various agreements. And then as private developments come in with their plans, we're reviewing them, assisting with the subdivision agreements, and then also working through developing those cost reimbursement documentation, helping you to recoup some of the money you've spent. That is also a time and material not to exceed component of the contract. So again, if we don't spend it all, you won't be charged. We're going to now move into the construction component of it. So what I have shown up here are the three previous contracts. In the left column there, you can see it was previously approved just over $50 million worth of construction. Over the last few months, we've worked with Hawkins and Sarpy County team members to identify ways to reduce those costs, partially reducing the contingency. As we've continued through the efforts of construction, we've been able to narrow down a lot of that effort and identify areas that we aren't going to need as much contingency. So we've identified just shy of $2.4 million that we're able to change order out of that, those 3 contracts, which will then roll into this future one here. To date, we have about just shy of $19 million expended to date, and that's primarily in these areas identified in the red shading. So what I'm going to show here is a couple of drone photos that we've taken of the area, kind of give you if you haven't driven through there lately, you can kind of see what's been accomplished over this last year. This is the 108th Giles intersection. We're looking southwest towards the OPP substation and towards Gretna. Majority of the pavement is in place. This is open to traffic currently, the east leg of Giles and the south leg of 180th. Next, we're looking at the 180th Palisades intersection, looking north towards the substation. Again, this is open to traffic now. And this is the 180th and Cornhusker intersection, looking northwest. We have 2 of the 3 lanes on 180th constructed yet this coming spring. We'll finish out that 3rd lane, put in the sidewalks and trail. And then Cornhusker there will be paving operations completed on that this spring as well. And then this is a photo of one of our unique structures that we have in place. This is on our Meridian Street. This is the bisecting roadway. This is just east of 192nd Street. We have the grading in place and some footings in place, waiting for the materials for the actual arch structure. So what does GMP4 include? Off on the map there, you can kind of see the lightly blue shaded area. In general, it's the remainder of Giles Road. We'll be tacking on a 3rd lane to the existing pavement. It includes 192nd Street from Giles down to Meridian, and then from Meridian down to Lincoln Road, and then the remaining portion of Cornhusker Road. There are 3 structures in this. The 192nd Street overpass over the railroad, that will be demolished and then reconstructed for the ultimate condition there. We have a widening project on the existing 192nd Street Papillion Creek Bridge, and then there's another box culvert on Cornhusker Road. As Scott had mentioned in your agenda, this is for $17.5 million, which would bring the overall program contract to $65.5 million. This is a bit above what we had originally presented to you last year, and we'll talk a little bit more as to why that is. Primarily, it's the inflationary costs, and Tom can certainly answer to this if you have questions, but over the last year, when we initiated the initial GMP, steel prices have gone up approximately $2.4 million, and so we are experiencing that in our prices. There have been scope adds throughout here, a handful of them there. I have listed the sidewalk along 192nd Street as part of that SID coordination that's been going on. The bank stabilization, as I mentioned, the Meridian arch structure we have there identified as $1 million. That one's I want to touch on just briefly. That's kind of a unique structure. It was different than what we had originated, but as we worked through this process and constructability, we determined that had we continued down that path, we likely would have entered into what's called a individual permit with Corps. If you get into that stage, it's a lengthy process and results in not only time delays, but certainly inflationary costs. So we spent a little extra money up front in saving time and money in the long run. There are railroad pass-throughs as well that were not fully understood when we originally started the program. Those include flagging operations, the railroad's independent construction engineering, and then railroad insurance. So that makes up approximately $1 million. And then as I mentioned, we went through a value engineering process over the last several months to try and find, well, honestly over the last year, but more in depth over the last month on finding savings to help offset those increased costs. And we just have a few listed there. I'm not going to go through each and every one of them. But we've managed to cut that increase down significantly. I've got a few more photos of the progress that we've made. We're back at 108th and Giles looking northwest towards the Garden Oaks and River Oaks developments there. You can kind of see the 180th overpass in the top right. This is a little closer picture of that structure. We've got the north abutment. Currently, there's 3 of the piers are up. They're forming the cap on the southern one. And I believe they're planning on starting.
So the approach coming to the south on 180th there is a 4-lane road, right? 2 lanes divide it?
Correct.
And then when you get to north of Giles, does it revert back to a 3-lane road?
Once we get past the intersection, we transition them back to a 3-lane road. We basically took that approach to save some initial costs with the structure. Basically, the operations of the intersection, we wanted to make sure that would function properly and not have any choking points. But we decided that.
So it's 3 lanes from Giles to Harrison, right? And then
correct.
When you get north of Harrison on the Douglas County side, what is 180th still 3 lanes?
It is currently, yes, until you get almost up to Dodge, I believe. It widens out at Center Street, and there's a few spots where it widens out, but
I'm
for
sure
the most part, it's 3-lane.
When this terminates eventually down on Interstate 80, that's probably going to drive that widening. Wouldn't it?
Exactly. That's what we are anticipating. Not really fully understanding when that'll occur. If it's 10, 15 years from now, we figured we'd find some savings up front.
Sure.
and defer some of that cost on that structure.
And maybe you're going to show that meridian again, but I guess yeah.
Well, this is Giles Road. This is the other railroad overpass that's being constructed currently. Embankment's in place, and they're working on one of the piers currently.
Okay.
I can certainly go back to that photo if you want.
I guess I just don't understand. I know it saved a lot of money, but can you just kind of explain how the engineering on that works? Because
the arch structure itself?
Yeah, the arch, yeah.
Sure. I personally am not a structural engineer, but yeah, in essence, it's pushing an arch structure, pushing the weight, spanning the area, and so it's unique in the sense that they're building it. They get a piece of corrugated metal and just kind of work their way through. With Tom, you can certainly.
Yeah, it's essentially almost a culvert pipe without a bottom in it.
Right.
And then there's piling driven on all sides of it, so it will span the wetland area, and then obviously backfilled and the road paved over the top of it. So as Tony indicated, we spent considerable time looking at that. We were concerned about permitting requirements. Original design was a box culvert that would have been, frankly, less expensive than this arch structure in true construction costs. However, the permitting process would have delayed us, it's hard to say, several years, most likely. So you start adding in the inflationary cost to that. Overall timing, making this whole thing come together, the end game, it is a savings to the project. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, briefly want to touch on what we're seeing some opportunities for reimbursement. We've worked out an agreement with the railroad on the Giles overpass that I just showed you there, where they will contribute to the cost of that structure, just over $250,000 there. The Gretna schools, we've worked out an agreement with them that at the completion of the roadway project, once all the final numbers are in place, we're anticipating about $1.5 million for their contribution on 180th and Lincoln Road. And then there's 9 current developments adjacent to the overall roadway program that we're anticipating $7.5 million will be recouped from them. And then we anticipate another 4.3 from future developments that are kind of left to be built. And this is just a picture of the Windsor West development currently being graded. You can see some of the infrastructure to the north of what our Meridian Street. And so as some of you may have been aware, we have already are working through some of that reimbursement request to those SIDs currently. So some of that money should be coming in soon. Last thing I want to touch on are just some of the schedules. So the GMP4 technically has a notice to proceed of October 1st of this year, but as Hawkins continues this year, and if they get 180th Street open sooner, they can begin work on that 192nd Street corridor. So I think Tom and his team have all intentions of doing that, and so we'll work together with them and try and keep this moving forward. But the overall project contract completion date would be December of '23. Again, we anticipate seeing that sooner. And then lastly, just want to mention potential opportunity for some publicity here, basically ribbon cutting opportunities for either of the major overpass structures, really opening up 180th corridor in its entirety later this summer. I think would be a great opportunity for everybody to come out, really celebrate the program that you've envisioned here and the unique approach of taking the CMGC, really taking on the first one for the state of Nebraska, which I think is something to be commended. And so with that, I'll let Tom, if he has any additional comments about our team.
A couple quick comments regarding the team. Your vision to use this alternative contracting method, I think has been beneficial. I think it's going to result in overall savings to the county. It currently is, and I think down the road that potential certainly exists. Specific to this team, you may or may not know, we spend a lot of time together every Tuesday, generally 3 hours, and several other phone calls talking about design aspects, construction aspects. This team consists of, folks from the county, Denny and Neil specifically. Scott's on the meeting every Tuesday morning or Tuesday afternoon. And then we're bringing in the utilities, any other necessary partners, coordination with the Gretna schools, the contractor that's building the Gretna schools. So there's a lot of people involved. It's a strong functioning team. I think that's, every design, every construction aspect, because of the time spent together talking about various potential problems and solving those before they happen. I think as a result, we've mitigated additional costs on a change order type thing that you would see maybe in a design bid build project. So to Olson, to the county folks, certainly the guys I work with, it's a pretty high functioning team, and certainly to you, the commissioners, for having the vision to roll with this type of process. It's been good, so appreciate it.
Questions, comments?
Thanks for the hard work, especially with the rising costs and trying to keep us in check there.
I think it's amazing you guys have done such a, you really essentially brought it in on budget with all the constraints with supply chain and inflation and, pandemics. Good grief. Commissioner Warren drove me around out there. It was just amazing, really, to see. And, of course, everywhere he took me, I could see need for better roads that aren't in part of this project that in that whole area. So I think there's going to be a lot of dirt moving for a long time. But man, getting 180th Street open will certainly be a huge milestone for the folks that live out there. So we really appreciate all the work you guys have done and the expertise you brought to bear on this project. It's been remarkable. So thank you for that.
Only comment would be Mike Bernicki. Every time I need something done, I go to him. So anyway, Mike, the work on this project is greatly appreciated as well.
Yeah, I think we're 1 year into the 3-year program, and it's been a great success, and we're really looking forward to the next 2 years of shepherding it through for you. So thank you.
Somebody called me the other day and said, who was the idiot engineer that designed 180th from 3-lane going down to 2-lane north of Cornhusker? I said, well, it'd be Tony. And I explained to him, this is just phase 1. There is another lane.
Sure.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Yep. All right, a motion on 6.7, which is the engineering's master agreement for Olson.
Motion to approve.
Second.
A motion by Warren, second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Commissioner Klug? There you go. Okay, ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, 6.8, Resolution 30, the Construction Management General Contractor Agreement.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Warren and second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
Okay, one last item, and this is Resolution 21. The Nebraska Department of Transportation, NDOT, Federal Aid Transportation Fund, Purchase Sale, Letter Agreement for Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriation. Basically a check from MAPA to Sarpy County for $750,265. Jim Warren, Commissioner.
Scott, do you have anything to say on that? The only thing I have to add is that we took the Corona money and just divided it up. Thank you also to Mayor Kindig, as he is chair of that board.
Right. The Nebraska Department of Transportation received an allotment of funds. I think it was about $6 million for coronavirus relief. The MAPA board said, and rather than give it to a couple of big projects, we'd like to disperse it to all the entities of MAPA. So Springfield, Gretna, Ralston, some of the smaller communities that really never get any funding got a minimum amount here. So that was good. And then the county's portion was $750,000. I think ours was maybe the second or third largest allotment. And so no strings, no federal strings on that. We can use it for whatever project we want. And once you approve this agreement, I think in the next 60 days, we'll get those funds on hand. So appreciate Commissioner Warren and Mayor Kindig, working through that process for all the communities in MAPA.
Yeah, I'll second that. I sat on that MAPA board. I
sat
think
on
Gary
it,
did too, and I don't ever recall bringing $750,000 back to Sarpy, so good job, Commissioner Warren.
Yeah, he cut through everything, and he got to butter our bread. We missed it, I guess.
That's right. We laid the plank.
It's just got to be good. Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Warren, second by Klug. Discussion? Please vote.
Oh, wait, I just remembered there weren't any pandemics when we were on the board.
Ayes 5, nays none, motion carries.
All right. All agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Board of Commissioners is adjourned.
Corrections?
Okay, hold on. I guess I have to open this. I didn't realize that. Okay. I'll call the county.
A couple of months worth of data, just with our new house arrest, worker lease participants. We didn't have any new admissions toward the end of the month. I know the Douglas County Worker Lease Center, they had a breakout of COVID, Omicron, so that was shut down for a brief amount of time. That's back open. So we have a couple that we're looking at for worker lease this month, and actually one for RAP. We're very excited to get somebody over there, somebody nonviolent offender, DUI offender sitting in our jail that could really benefit from the programming that the RAP program has to offer. So here are our year-end totals with the placements on our community corrections programs, our participants, our screenings, the amount of jail beds saved, to the tune of almost $9.5 million. These are some of the year-end graphs with our statistics. You can see kind of in the last quarter as the jail numbers started to climb, as did our screenings. Our electronic monitoring numbers stayed relatively high over the course of the year. Our appearance rates stayed high. I'm really proud of the work our supervision officers have been doing, keeping in touch with the clients that we supervise and getting them to the court. And then this is an interesting graph. I was just kind of looking over back to 2015 and really kind of these blue columns I wanted to highlight. So here up at 2018, you really kind of see this quick, tremendous growth. Little bit of a drop off in 2019, and then as the pandemic hit and the increase in cite and release and the jail numbers were down, our numbers kind of followed suit, and then we've I don't know if I'd use the term bounce back, but our numbers went up about 19% this past year compared to 2020. So with everything going on, and as Ryan's numbers go up, I imagine ours will continue to stay busy. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Well, just in the case numbers, the services, staffing wise, so are you staffed for the growth that's going to inevitably occur again?
Yeah, right now, and that's something that we'll address if the caseload size becomes too big to manage. Right now, caseload size is manageable.
Okay.
So I
Just
appreciate
keep us posted.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Because I assume it's gonna be over 400, and it just
So
you know, one of the side effects of growth, unfortunately. So.
Yep. Thank you.
Thanks, Jake.
You bet.
Okay, Tammy, Juvenile Justice Center report.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Just real briefly, our numbers pretty much stayed the same for November and December. I did want to point out that we did have one graduate in our alternative school in the middle of the September, what we call as a super senior. So he came back for his second year of senior, but did actually graduate. So that was a huge accomplishment for us and for him. Our totals pretty much stayed the same with our care, truancy, and tracker. Our medical, little uptick in our assessments, same amount of youth on medication, but we did have our psych meds, as we always do, usually about 2, sometimes 3 per youth. And our mental health watches were up there as well. As far as our counties, still the same for November and December. Didn't add a new county, still trying to get to our western part and some of our northern counties to serve the youth there. And just something that I thought was interesting that I wanted to share with the board. I know Christmas has passed, but we did have a family member of our former director, Dick Shea, that she has donated stockings that she makes every year. And even though we have youth in detention, they made choices to be there. That's still a holiday. We just provided them with some hygiene products in their stockings for Christmas. So again, wanted to just point that out, that we have a community member who always donates every year to our facility there. And I just wanted to do a quick update too. The last time we met was in November, which shortly after our escape that we had. And Commissioner Kelly, you even asked, let's look at some options for the rec center. Brian McCoy and I have been working diligently on that. Talked to several fencing companies. We want to make sure that we provide you with the safest and most practical option for our rec center. So we are still looking at some options, whether that be an angled arm or a covered area. We want to make sure that it's stable and it's also safe for our youth that are there. So we're still in the works so that we don't have anything finalized for you just yet, working with some of those companies. But as we progress further, we'll make sure that you are kept in the loop of that.
Yeah, I'm hopeful when we get down to the JJC, we'll have a concept.
I'm hoping so too.
We can put eyes on it, I think, because the Board of Corrections, I mean, I don't speak for every member, but I think that's an enhancement that we can all get behind and make sure it's funded, so.
Absolutely. And something I brought to the board before, the youth that we're holding nowadays are not the same youth that we were holding 5, 6, even 10 years ago. So these youth are making some very impulsive decisions, and so we need to make sure that they're safe, but at the same time getting their health and wellness taken care of too at the Juvenile Justice Center. So again, still something that we're working on, and we'll provide the board with updates as we have them.
Great, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Is Captain Richards here? No. Did you kind of cover that? You got that? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm a little slow on the uptake. Must be the medication. No, just kidding. All right, let's recess and go take a quick tour of the facility.
Not me?
And then we got to, yeah.
Adjourn this.
Oh, wow. This is nice.
I need signatures, Don, too.
Oh.
Okay, are you adjourning us?
Are you adjourning us, Don?
Are you going
Could you adjourn us, please?
Oh, I thought you, okay.
No, you're going to return from recess, and now.
We just returned.
5:10.
And all agenda items have been addressed as published, and the Board of Corrections is adjourned.
Thank you.